please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Over a percent today, the Nifty Bank 2 bounces back, up more than 1% as we speak.
Sun Pharma rebounds today, is among the top gainers on Nifty as the street expects the Halol plant inspection to end today. Stock recovers almost 10% from the lows hit on Wednesday.
And Fortis Healthcare continues to be on our radar as promoter holding in the company falls to 3% after lenders invoke pledge shares. CNBC TV18360p learns that the race to acquire the company heats up as Malaysia-based IAHH enters the fray. That's an exclusive.
Other stocks making news today. Federal Bank gains over 4% on plans to acquire 26% stake in Aquarius Capital, while Jubilant Life sees a cut of almost 8% after over 3.5% equity trades in 6 blocks on NSE between 914 to 940 per share. Sources tell CNBC TV18360p that promoters are likely to have sold over 3% in the company.
Okay, all right. Just keep an eye on a few stocks. Well, Tata Steel as well has spiked up its move virtually to the high point of the day. There are some news reports and there is a hope now that the entire cut down in terms of Chinese capacity, that's going to be extended. So there are various news reports that did come out, and what it suggests is maybe close to around 10 million tons more of capacity will get shut down. Now, China produces roughly around a billion in terms of capacity. So that'll be 1% of their capacity, but at least they're continuing with the shutdown. That's what's expected even post, from that period from March to November. So that's the hope, and that could be one of the reasons why the stock is recovering all of its losses that we have seen. Remember, it started the week at around 700 rupees, and after that it fell to around 630 rupees. But let's cut across to my colleague Ekta Batra. She's in conversation with Mr. Rama, the Commerce Minister of Telangana, from the sidelines of the 15th BioAsia Summit. Ekta.
Hi, a very good afternoon and welcome to this Facebook Live. It's quite a special Facebook Live, you'd have to say. I'm joining you from BioAsia, the 15th edition, all the way in Hyderabad. And you can see that I have a very special guest with me this afternoon, Mr. K.T. Rama. Mr. Rama, thank you very much for joining in. It is the 15th edition of BioAsia in Hyderabad. Tell us what the theme is this year.
Well, in fact, like every year in the last 15 years, we've focused on ensuring that Hyderabad retains and Hyderabad sustains its leadership position in pharmaceuticals, bulk drugs and biotech. In fact, as you may be knowing, Ekta, we are the world's largest single cluster which produces vaccines. In fact, if you look at the vaccine production world over, more than 1/3 of the global vaccines are produced here. So we are focused on ensuring that BioAsia once again gives us that opportunity to understand what's happening, what are the emerging trends across the world, what are the new regulatory restrictions or regulatory guidelines that have come up, which will also once again give us direction on the way forward. So we've been focused this year on learning more from people across the world, and we have more than 2,000 people coming in, visitors and delegates included, and we have more than 45 countries participating, and great learnings in the last 14 years and 15th year. In fact, just to give you a perspective of what we've achieved in BioAsia, more than 150,000 crores of investment in the last 15 years have come through different MOUs that have been signed. More than 90 countries have participated in the last 15 years, and this has really helped us build our ecosystem. Genome Valley is extremely special. It's the largest biotech cluster in Asia, and this is the center where we manufacture all our vaccines. And in fact, a lot of engagements with governments from across the world, and also from within the governments in India and also Government of India. We've been able to get multiple breakthroughs through BioAsia. So it's a very special event for us, and it's the largest of its kind in Asia, so excited.
Okay, but you have a couple of tie-ups this year. Your international partner is Ireland and I think Holland as well. And on the other side, the state side, you have Gujarat as a tie-up. Tell us what these tie-ups mean and why Ireland, why Gujarat?
Well, Gujarat is not a bad state to tie up with, as you know. I think Prime Minister's home state and also the second largest pharma cluster in India is Ahmedabad. So Gujarat is a great partner to have. So is Ireland, because Ireland is where, again, single largest concentration of pharma bulk drug companies in the world. And they have some amazing biotech companies as well, and they are as a very small country with a very small land area, they've done exceptionally well on this side. So these are great partnerships to forge because they are great amount of learnings. And also, as I've said, you know, Hyderabad on this continuum of entire life sciences spectrum, if you look at, we have a couple of things happening. One, we're the bulk drugs capital of India right now. We are the single largest cluster of pharma production in India. More than 35% of pharma in India is produced in Hyderabad or manufactured in Hyderabad. And we also export quite a bit to the US. In fact, our size of the industry here in Hyderabad today is about $50 billion, if you look at it. So our aim is to double this in the next 10 years to $100 billion. And in that journey, we have decided that we'll also create more focused, impetus is given to not only policy and fiscal support from the government in the way of creation of infrastructure, but we also want to expand and innovate more. We also want the industry to collaborate more with us. So we have come out with 3 or 4 things which could be of interest to you. Hyderabad Pharma City would be the single largest pharma cluster in the world, in 19,000 acres of space, very close to Hyderabad Airport. In fact, we are awaiting the final clearance from MOEF. Hopefully when that comes through, we can quickly get going. The second thing we are going to be setting up, in fact, which is already underway, is the largest medical devices park, the MedTech park in India, in about 250 acres, again very close to Hyderabad. That gives a very unique opportunity for large number of med devices manufacturers from across the world, because the large Indian market in itself is a huge opportunity, 1.32 billion people, importing 70% of medical devices right now. And with Make in India campaign, Make in Telangana campaign, we want to manufacture more and more. We want to get more and more of these guys into Hyderabad. The third thing I'll talk about is Genome Valley 2.0. We created Genome Valley 1.0 about 20 years ago. Now 2.0 will also start looking at newer trends, biosimilars, biopharma production that is happening across the world, even in Ireland, Japan, even in China, and many other countries in Europe. We're looking at more and more manufacturing of these to come to India. We're also looking at setting up an incubator which would focus on nanosciences, immunotherapy. In fact, we had announced it last night that we'd be setting this up in Genome Valley in Shamirpet. So at Genome Valley 2.0, a MedTech park and Hyderabad Pharma City is how we look at taking, doubling the $50 billion business to $100 billion in the next 10 years. And we see all of this in a very synergistic fashion working with each other. These 3 clusters together will propel Hyderabad into that orbit.
I'm going to ask you more about Pharma City as well as the medical devices park in just a bit. But before that, you're holding BioAsia at a time when it is actually a difficult scenario for the entire pharmaceutical space. You're talking about generic pricing pressure in the US. You're talking about, NPPA back home, etc. And it goes on. In this context, and you've mentioned before that the government should be an enabler. In this context, how important is government support at this time? And do you think that theme of these challenges is playing up in BioAsia this time?
Government support is critical because especially if you're looking to compete globally, the Indian industry needs a great deal of support. Like you said, NPP on one side, the prices with respect to generics, exclusivity of, there are a bunch of things which we can talk about. As a federal government, Government of India, in fact, has been doing its bit. But I think as the state which has got the single largest concentration of pharma companies, Telangana is going to do.
Okay, so important statements coming out there from Mr. Rama, the Commerce Minister of Telangana for the pharma industry. But on that note, let's slip into a quick break. We will focus on some more stock queries when we return. Welcome back. Where as far as the market is concerned, the Nifty has gained around 100 points in trade and Sensex as well sitting close to the gain of around 300 points. But 2 stocks that have been in focus for a while is IDFC Bank and Capital First. Remember, the companies announced merger in the month of January, and Manglam joins us as he has done some interesting analysis on the share ratio that they had given earlier. Manglam.
That's right, Anisha, we keep looking at share prices and the data very closely, and the one that came onto my radar right now was Capital First as well as IDFC Bank. You spoke about how the merger was announced in January, I think January 13th. That time, Capital First, the price was 853 rupees. And since then, we've seen a swift correction in those prices. In fact, Capital First currently trades at 673 rupees. The ratio that was announced was 139 shares of IDFC Bank for 10 shares of Capital First. So at 673 rupees, if you bought 10 shares of Capital First, you would have to pay out 6,730 rupees, for which you would get 139 shares of IDFC Bank, which at current level are worth 7,230 rupees. So just do the math. If you divide 6,730 by 139, the break-even equilibrium price for IDFC Bank comes at 48, and the one for Capital First comes at around 720. So maybe 50 rupees off is the arbitrage price. But remember, there are a lot of considerations, there are a lot of approvals, and the record date is yet to be announced. But this is purely just mathematical data analysis which came by because of the correction we saw in Capital First prices.
Okay, all right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that interesting observation. So something's got to give in that merger ratio. But we need to move on then. Remember, today is our ladies special on Your Stocks, and we'll be answering all the queries coming in from our female callers. Joining us on the show today, we have two gentlemen, Prakash Kaba as well as Mayuresh Joshi. Good day, gentlemen. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining in today. And let's go straight to our first caller. Megha writes to us, in fact, from Delhi. She holds around 380 shares of Taj GVK since the last 4 years. Long-term investor wants to know whether or not to hold or to sell. Prakash, do you track this one, Taj GVK?
Yeah,
what would your advice be?
Basically, basic structure is positive, so one must just continue holding it. Strong support in the vicinity of 160. Where it goes from here is difficult to say, but once it crosses 190, I think it's going to zoom. So I think it's better to hold it. Downside seems to be limited on Taj GVK.
Okay, so downside seems to be limited as far as Taj GVK is concerned. But Mayuresh, what are the charts saying, and what is your call actually, in fact, fundamentally on Taj GVK?
No, so as Prakash was mentioning, Anisha, I think it's a hold from my side as well, because the issues that the company was facing because of the Telangana problems clearly reflected in the occupancy ratios going down to 50 odd percent. That has jumped back very, very smartly to around 59 odd percent, and those occupancy levels will keep on inching up, like MICE events happening in the city and a lot of industrial conferences. To that bit, I think the Mumbai property has broken even, and in fact on the bottom line has posted profits, as well as diversification with Chandigarh, Chennai, and expectations of a new property coming up in Bangalore. So as the ARRs, that is the average room rate, start going up, the EV2 key should also start moving up for Taj GVK. So yes, I think if the investor has a year and a half's time horizon, it's a clear hold from my side.
Okay, so hold coming in from Mayuresh as well. Important flashes on your screen. Quality just launched Tandai flavor for one of its beverages as well. And other than that, Canara Bank is one stock that is gained around 6% in trade. That is to issue around 61.2 crore equity shares to the government, which might work out around 4,800 odd crores. That stock clearly gaining 5% in trade. But with that, let's slip into a quick break. We will focus on some more stock queries when we return.
Okay, all right. Keep an eye out on some of these pharma names. You know, a couple of them are slipping from the top. Sun Pharma was holding with good gains. It's come off a tad bit. Even Oro Pharma, I think, has come off a tad bit. But the rupee is calling for our attention. Bit of strength being seen over there. So that's pretty good news as well as we speak. Well, let's go on to our next query. We have Parul, who writes to us from Gujarat. She holds around 150 shares of Wipro at 270 rupees or thereabouts. Since the last 1.5 year, long-term investor. Hold on or sell? That's the query that she's posting to us. Mayuresh, coming across to you on Wipro. Hold on, or do you advise her to, exit that or maybe get into something else?
Afternoon, Nigel. I think the performance by Wipro, both in terms of the top line growth, the guidance that they've given of a 1 to 3% growth in dollar terms on a quarter-on-quarter basis for Q4, I think it lags the growth parameters that a lot of IT companies are probably doing. The EBIT margins specifically on the IT services were quite reasonable in the quarter gone by, and the client addition also was reasonable. So I think one client added in the 75 million category, two clients.
Yeah, Mayuresh, we'll just come back to you. Mayuresh, we'll just come back to you on Wipro, but Sun Pharma is a stock that we should be looking at. They've come out with the US FDA has issued 3 observations to the company's Halol unit. That's the first flash has come out. The company is preparing the response to the observations, which will be submitted to the US FDA within 15 business days. The company is committed to addressing these observations promptly. I think we should get a reaction coming in there. 3 observations is what has come out. We're just getting this news that's on the Bombay Stock Exchange itself. They're saying that the US FDA conducted a GMP, that's good manufacturing process inspection, at Sun Pharma. That's at their Halol facility between the 12th and the 23rd. And really, that's the verdict that's come out there, Anisha. 3 observations is what we have got. There we'll have to, get an analyst and understand the implications of this.
Yes, Nigel, I remember the stock was, of course, in focus for the last few days, given this particular inspection that was underway. If I remember it right, Ekta was telling us that it forms around 4% of the total sales. Still, 11% of the US sales come from this particular facility. A lot of the products have been on stay because they were not able to get the completion certificate as far as the Halol facility is concerned. So that's the reason this particular plant is very important for Sun Pharma, and we should see the reaction coming in the stocks as well. Right now, it is up 2.5%. At one point of time, that stock was holding on to gains around 4.5%. Right now, the stock is slipping from the high point of the day. Clearly, that was a very important factor that Sun Pharma and the investors were waiting for. We will have to get a word from the analysts. So what does it mean? What kind of observations they are? Does it mean anything for that? So clearly, something to really look forward to, Nigel.
Yeah, I remember CLSA, they had said that, going ahead, the improvement in the US revenue from generic launches largely linked to the successful Halol plants. Going ahead, the ramp up of the specialty pipeline as well. That's something that, in fact, the street was looking forward to in terms of this Halol unit. So we'll keep an eye out on this front. The stock has come up, mind you, from the high point of the day. I think we need to get an analyst, to comment on this as soon as possible. But just giving you a few more details in terms of that, the big trigger for Sun Pharma going ahead is the ramp up of their specialty pipeline. That's likely to take place in FY19. And if that had to take place, then the Halol plant is going to play a role in that one as well. I think, we had a brokerage note as well on from CLSA just a few days ago. They said that, in fact, as these valuations are not very cheap. It's trading around 22 to around 29 times its forward earnings. So 3 observations. We'll have to see how fast can they resolve this. They're saying they're going to come back in 15 business days. But, that's about all we have as of now. What are those observations? How critical they are? That's something that we'll have to wait by for. But I think there is some profit booking from the high point of the day. The street was factoring in the worst, Anisha, a few days ago, because that's when the stock got absolutely clobbered. It fell down close to around what? It was down 8%, went to around 510, 515. From there, we've seen a bit of a bounce. But we'll have to wait by, I think, to understand the implications of this as well, Anisha. Yeah.
Correct, because the observations, unless we understand whether it's a data integrity issue or this is that kind of observation that they can, complete in a matter of few weeks is what we have to watch out for. We had a note from IIFL as well this morning. Remember, the Sun Pharma management was at the conference yesterday, and they say that the likely resolution of Halol facility remains the only near-term trigger for the stock. So it is very critical to understand. Right now, the stock is recovering a tad bit. It is now sitting with a gain of around 4%. So clearly, the nature of observation is paramount and is important to know. Not the number of observations, but what those observations are is what we'll have to figure out. In fact, if we can get probably an analyst view on that, that would be a lot helpful to understand what does it mean for the company. But right now, it is definitely recovering from the low point.
I think the street is celebrating this bit of news because they're saying that, in fact, there's only 3 observations. And I'll tell you what, just a few days ago when we had that CLSA note, what they had said was that the further delay in Halol clearance, that's what could hurt the US recovery going ahead as well. And as a base case, what CLSA had built in was, in fact, incremental revenue of around 100 to around $150 million from Halol in the next year. So, that's something that we should work with. 100 to around $150 million is what they had factored in. And in terms of a bull case, well, they were assuming nearly around 200 to around $300 million going ahead as well. So this is very, very important. 100 to $150 million. That's a base case that CLSA did consider. And any kind of delay in the Halol clearance, that's what's going to hurt the US recovery as well. But all right, I think we have an analyst. We have Cinderella Carvalho who joins us to run us through her reading of this. Hi, Cinderella. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, if you could give us your take on this. We know that there are 3 observations. What Sun Pharma is saying, they're going to be responding in 15 business days. Your first reaction on this?
Oh, I think it is something that the street was waiting for a very, very long time. And finally, we have got to hear it, that is, US FDA has completed the re-inspection of Halol. And see, understand, until we see the Form 483, by just numbers, we cannot decide whether it is anything serious or anything what that we need to see in it.
Right.
But my understanding of the situation is 3 observations should not be on any serious note, because company has spent a good amount of time.
All right.
And all the consultants and everybody waiting and working very hard. I see that they must have done a very good job, and these observations should be on a milder side only.
All right, you're expecting these observations to be on a milder side, Cinderella. You know,
I mean,
for FY
SOP base.
Okay, as per FY19, FY20, in your estimates, have you factored in anything coming in from Halol? If you could give us a ballpark number, were you factoring in some revenues coming in the next fiscal?
No. See, we had not factored in. So now, yes, we would have to, and it should mean somewhere at least approval rate should increase, and that should lead to a lot of earning improvements going ahead. So we are looking forward to at least 10 to 15% upside. That's at least as of now. But as and when we'll get more and more approvals and clearance,
you start factoring in something, Cinderella, now going ahead, right? That's the short point you're trying to make.
Yeah, 10 to 15%.
And your current rating on this stock?
Buy.
The buy rating with a target price of?
So we have been a target price of around 675.
Okay, all right, Cinderella. We'll have to wait by for further clarity on that. Thanks so much for stopping by. But it appears that, in fact, 3 observations is something that the street would like, and the stock holding with a gain of around 4.5%. We'll wrap up on this show, but closing bell, we'll take all the action forward, and we'll tell you more on Sun Pharma.
Mild green seen on the Nikkei, which is up about 0.2%, led higher by all the automakers.
We continue to see a phenomenal growth in our customer base, and we are very, very happy about the speed at which we are acquiring customers.
Market leadership has now changed. The Nifty IT has outperformed Bank Nifty by 7% in February, and that's a large outperformance.
Very, very mildly greenish start, 0.1, 0.2 up on these 2 indices.
From a macro perspective, things are a lot more challenging given where bond yields are globally.
I believe we will see new and new lines coming up in the general insurance space. So yes, we are very bullish on this.
Helps both the organizations, broaden their product offering, and also from a geographical perspective.
IHH, the Malaysia-based company, a global major with deep pockets, was really in the fray for buying out Fortis earlier and now has re-entered this particular space.
There are 10 bidders which are being evaluated. KPMG is doing the financial evaluations.
Enforcement Directorate is looking at is the properties belonging to Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi, and they have identified at least 25 to 30 properties.
10,483. Which means that from yesterday's low, the Nifty is up almost a full 150 odd points.
It's been a good day for the bulls, no doubt about that. First day of news series, of course. A lot of news as well, especially on pharma. This is Closing Bell. I'm Anuj, with me Surabhi. Hi, Surabhi. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Anuj. Finally, it feels like a good afternoon after a long, long time. We'll just get to the market in a bit. But that news on Sun Pharma, I mean, 3 observations. It's that one big punt that the street has been taking, right? Whether Halol will work out for them or not. What do you make of things as of now?
Classical indicator of how markets operate at times. Since morning, everyone was hearing that, and it was, as a lot of people say, maybe the worst kept secret. You were getting a sense that something positive is coming on Sun Pharma, and that yes, they would get a Form 483, but the observations won't be serious. And that's why you saw that big build up. As soon as the news was out, there was a big decline, and you saw the stock actually make the low of the day. And from that point, you have seen that is where those who would have been in the know would have just bailed out, and from that point you have seen a big rally. This is a material positive news for Sun Pharma, and I think the fact that Sun Pharma is at 550 and not at say 800 is also helping, though it's come off from its recent lows. The feedback I'm getting is that perhaps while they have to give the response in 15 days, it's still going to take time. It's going to take 2 to 3 months perhaps for Sun Pharma to resolve this. Once it's resolved, obviously it's good news, but after that, of course, the story would be, can they get back some of their sales? Pricing erosion has always been there, so that I think is going to be an issue. But for today, of course, it's a maybe the high and the low both played out, because almost everyone was in, the whole as I say, the whole village was in. before that news came in, and that's where you saw that intraday volatility.
No, I completely take your point, because some of the notes that I was trying to go through on Sun Pharma, I mean, another counter argument that some analysts are making is that first you get the plant up and running, and then you have to build a pipeline of drugs where competition isn't as intense, because it's not that simple in the US market. But anyway, coming to today's trading action itself, clean from the start, banks are performing, there's sort of buying on in different parts of the market, mid caps are looking good. Is it too good to be true, or should we just believe the screen?
Yeah, that's the tough one. But look, anecdotal evidence is there that, and Nigel, of course, did that study and, put it out as well, that first day of series, after a washout series normally is positive. And, the profile of stocks which is rallying is indicating that, the ones which were beaten down the most, TVS Motor, Motherson Sumi, your banking names, they are the ones which are leading the rally. And the ones which actually were strong, like IT stocks, are actually seeing, a bit of a decline. So, for me, the key would be what happens Monday onwards. Again, you don't want to be nitpicking here. Anecdotally, if you have a big rally on the first day of series, that sometimes doesn't last. And if you have first decline on the first day of new series, that also doesn't last. So it's, as you said, maybe too good to be true. Just one day things can't be back to normal. So let's see. The big test for this market would be Monday onwards. Today was a case of just seeing a bit of covering from the lows and seeing some rally. But let's see next week, especially on the bank nifty. That's where the test would be at higher levels. Okay. Once the selling resumes, can the banks take it?
Oh, absolutely. But I guess the feel-good factor, especially on a Friday, won't hurt too many people out there. On that note, let's get you the headlines on closing bell this afternoon. Strong start to the new series on Dalal Street. The Sensex and the Nifty gain almost 1% each, trading near the day's high, led by heavyweights like Reliance, private banks, as well as Tata Steel. Stock of the moment, Sun Pharma as well as Spark, both of them gaining in trade after the US FDA completes the inspection of the Halol facility and issues a Form 483 with 3 observations. The stock recovers almost 10% from the lows it hit on Wednesday. Fortis Healthcare continues to be on our radar as the promoter holding in the company falls to 3% after lenders invoke pledged shares. CNBC TV18 also learns that the race to acquire the company is heating up. Malaysia-based IHH has re-entered the fray. That's an exclusive.
Okay, how should you position yourself in this last hour of trade then? Ashwini Gujral and Mitesh Thakkar now join us with closing strategies. Good afternoon. Ashwini, we have seen a powerful bounce, but slightly off the high point of the day. Your reading for last hour, and what would be your stock calls?
See, the problem is that first day, everybody is in a hurry to become cautious. But, even in the worst of bear markets, you do get a 3 to 5 day type of pullbacks. So this is the first day of a pullback. Now, other days may not be as big, but my sense is there should be more pullback. There should be more pullback on banks as well as other stocks. So the idea should be to, buy into the market and stay long till at least 10,600. I think those levels should come in. But whether this is the real thing or something else will happen, we'll have to wait and see. But when people start saying that, okay, now 11,000 is visible, that is when the bears are likely to be back. They're not likely to be back when people are thinking, is this real, first day, selling will come back, etc. So that gives me confidence that there should be more on the upside. Having said that, Engineers India is a buy with a stop of 164, target of 178. IndusInd Bank is a buy with a stop of 1620. Target of 1700, and Karnataka Bank is a buy with a stop of 130, target of 142.
Okay, all right. Let's also bring in Mitesh. Good afternoon, Mitesh. What have you made of what looks like, at least for now, Good Friday for the Bulls, and of course your trading ideas?
Good afternoon, sir. It looks like a very good Friday indeed. We've just had a century, and I think what is important for the Nifty is that it's kind of just hanging around those 10,470 level, which is what I said is an area where the intraday averages are converging. So in case we show strength beyond that, I think the 2 targets which I'll look on the upside would be 10,620, and if you recall the week before this, we had multiple pullbacks ending around the 10,620, 630 mark. So that becomes the next target once we start getting past 10,480, 490 zone. And then 10,700, 730 is a gap area. So I think these are the two targets which we'll look on the upside. Again, not looking at a big reversal, but the only thing is that now that we are getting, now that we could be getting past the intraday averages, we could see some more strength in this pullback, and this could be a stronger pullback and a slightly broad base than what we have seen in the last 2 weeks. The calls that I have right now, Bharti Airtel is a buy with a stop at 421.5 for targets of 438, and CESC is a buy with a stop at 989 for targets of 1025.
Okay, big move in EIL today. Ashwini, I just want to revisit this stock because it had a sharp correction. What would be the next levels to watch here? And not just that, in fact, if you'll have thoughts on, say, BEML and a couple of other PSU stocks as well.
See, PSU stocks have also come back. So BEL, Engineers India, etc. That is seeing action. Sometimes, because of action on Coal India, etc., people start expecting things. But from 206, it got hammered to about 150. And now, basically range bound, say 150 downside, 200 upside. Similarly on BEL, I think, again, people got off, and now a rally should take you back to 170, 175. So most of these PSU stocks are range bound. They've hit lower end of the ranges and are now moving towards the higher end of the ranges.
Okay, by the way, that's source-based information that we are picking up. There was a lot of talk about whether there will be some change at the top at Punjab National Bank after the unfortunate events. It seems that the Bank Board Bureau is quite clear that right now they don't want to intervene. They're going to wait for the investigative agencies to finish their process. And then if there is a rejig, it will be only after the agencies put out their report. So that's Punjab National Bank in news, as always. On that note, let's also welcome in Abhimanyu Sofat, Vice President of Research at IIFL. He's joining us from the sidelines of the IIFL Enterprising India Conference. That conference has been underway for 2-3 days now. Abhimanyu, good talking to you. So as things are drawing to a close at the conference, what's the takeaway? Are you getting a sense that people are still very confident in this market? Are you getting the sense that, we can resume the rally at all?
Yeah, sure. I think so. The general mood among investors is that, earnings growth is going to come back for sure in FY19. And going forward, things look better on the earnings front. However, on the valuation front, as we see the bond yield spike up both in US as well as in the Indian market, the multiple that people want to give is likely to reduce a bit. So I think so. People are right now finding safe haven mostly in global related sectors as well as consumption stories. So metals, IT, as well as the consumer themes is what people are as of now focusing, in addition to being in the private sector banks.
Okay, we have Purvi Shah now also joining us from Sher Khan on that news which is breaking, of course, on Sun Pharma. And let's get those flashes running again, because that still is material news for Sun Pharma. Purvi, hi, good afternoon. So, thoughts on how to approach this stock from here on now? Because there are 3 observations, but, apparently none of them are critical. You think a resolution could be around the corner?
Yes, the news comes in as a sentimental booster at the moment, because if we have to see the plan, there's no clarity in terms of what happens to the earlier warning letter that has been given to the plant, as well as the Form 483s which were there earlier. So this 3 observations is a sentimentally booster, because earlier they have received almost like 9, or in the one that was way in 2014 they had got 23 observations. So in terms of comparison of numbers of observations is quite less. So obviously it should be procedural, but a clarity is something that we would await from the management, because also at the moment there are no new approvals coming in from this plant. So if the warning letter is lifted and if things are right, then the approvals will also start coming in, and then there will be a meaningful contribution in terms of new products from the site.
Purvi, stay on with us. Some more questions for you. Let's also welcome in Mr. Tulsian into the conversation this afternoon. Thanks, sir, for joining in. Good to have you on the show as always. First question, Sun Pharma. Now, we don't know what these 3 observations are, but I think the market sense right now is that they're not very critical in nature. How would you look at the stock now?
See, maybe I think market will be keen to know the exact content or maybe the exact nature of these observations until then, because pharma sector is not seen, having again come back in the focus like maybe IT. So I don't think that people will really be too keen for taking a call on the Sun Pharma, because 3 observations have come in, and unless until we know the nature of those 3 observations, it is difficult to take a call.
Okay, difficult to take a call. Abhimanyu, your thoughts on Sun Pharma right now?
So I think so. The 3 observations was something that was known to the market for the last couple of days. So there is no surprise as such. So I think so on the incremental perspective, there is nothing negative which has happened in Sun Pharma, and for that reason, I think so people are becoming more bullish with regard to Halol facility. I think so that's the only trigger right now left for the company, because the US market continues to be depressed. We believe that there's going to be probably a 7% growth in the US market in terms of volume for them, and by FY20 it will then reach double digit. So I think so one needs to wait, but if it is that there is not any serious implication, then obviously the stock could rally even from here.
Okay, that could rally from here. The one which is rallying seriously hard is Fortis. And we made this point at the start, Surabhi, that initial negative news was absorbed and how the stock just moved on, and that was an indication that perhaps maybe a trend day was on the anvil for Fortis now. 7.5% higher is what we have right now on Fortis. Mr. Sen, of course, you have been positive on Fortis. You've been calling it a screaming buy, but that was at around 130, I think. At 157, because we don't know who the new promoter is right now, and of course there's a bit of a race right now. So thoughts on this stock now?
See, I don't think that here the name of the new promoter is material. Here the exit of the older promoter is very important. And when we have their stake having reduced to just maybe 35% plus to about 3%, that itself indicates, and this is what I've said in the morning also, that this is seen as an extremely positive move, that now there are no if and buts that whether the Singh brothers will exit or will not exit, because that was seen to be a big overhang. Now coming on, whether the overseas party comes in or maybe the domestic buyer comes in, that is not important, because the quality of the assets, that is more important, and you don't have any comparable play after Apollo Hospital of this size. I'm not saying that there are no other healthcare spaces stocks available. In fact, we have seen 4 or 5 IPOs coming out in last 2 or 3 years. But see the kind of rich valuations they are all enjoying. And definitely after Apollo Hospital, Fortis Healthcare is seen to be the quite stable, having infrastructure and is a good facilities. So the exit of Singh brothers itself is very important, and still at 156, 157 we will continue to have our positive bias, because probably the fight amongst the potential acquirer will start with outbidding against each other, and nobody would like to leave this company or these assets at this stage.
Okay, gentlemen, all right. Stay on with us. Lots more questions coming your way. We have to take a break right now. Here's our closing bell money control question of the day. We're asking you whether Virat Kohli can break Sachin Tendulkar's record of 100 international 100s. That's an interesting one. You should get some good commentary on that. Log on to moneycontrol.com. Tell us what you think, and we will take up some of the responses after 3:30. After the break, we will also be back with our Alpha Manager segment, and joining us today is Anshul Sehgal of Kotak PMS. Back with him in just a bit.